Well, what a difference a stylus makes. Got the new stylus for this yesterday and I've put it in. It's a flip over stylus. Now on some decks that would play 78s, you had an LPS and then a 78 tip on the other side. You used to flip them over. But as this one will only play LPs and 45s, I've got a diamond LP and single flip over. So when one wears out, you just flip it over and use the other side. And the strange thing is that it was cheaper to get that one, which is a proper diamond one, than it was to have another one with just the one tip as came off it before. It doesn't matter whether it's something really humble like a battery driven 9-volt Philips thing with no tone control even, or like this, a stereo from the 70s, or a music centre, or even an Amstrad tower system, or a top of the range thing like a JVC Bang & Olufsen Goldring Lenco. The list goes on, doesn't it? You can't ever have a decent enough stylus, because if you play your records with a duff stylus, the chances are it will bugger them up. And I can remember years ago now, my mother had always wanted a truly posh music centre, and what she ended up with was a Toshiba stack system, and the cassette, tuner, amplifier and record player were all Japanese, but the rack it sat in and the speakers too were made here. The speakers were actually three-way jobs made by Goodmans, and sometimes seen badged as Goodmans, but hers had Toshiba and were finished in rosewood like the cabinet. But I can always remember what happened. My mother had a great many quite valuable and rare classical records, LPs, and my father, he went to the English Folk Dance and Song Society's lending library, I think it was, and got a whole load of folk music records and played them on this Toshiba thing. Well, it was all right, the sound was absolutely beautiful compared to the old. I think they had a Philips at the time, and it didn't have a very good sound on it, that one, I have to say. But I ended up with it myself in the end. I've still got it here somewhere. But, oh dear. Next time my mother went to play her classical records, she had a very keen ear for this sort of thing and knew something somewhere wasn't right with this Toshiba. So when she tried to play her classical records again, oh my God, she had a bloody conniption then, all right. They came through all fuzzy and tinny and crackly and everything else. And it turned out that the stylus was covered in fluff and dust from these records from the library. And also that the stylus was chipped. I could see it through a magnifier I had for model making in those days. And oh, bloody hell. She hit the roof, didn't she? And I'm going back a long way. This was probably about 1979, 1980. And a new stylus for that then cost, I think, £6.99, which was a hell of a lot of money in those days. I know you don't believe me, but it's true. Those of us old farts like me who were around then, we know. Oh dear, yes, so after that she made him go and buy new records from the EFDSS. wouldn't let him play anything suspect on a Toshiba. Oh dear, yeah. So it just goes to show. Mind you, the same thing can happen with tape cassettes. I remember one particular idiot at work, and he said that the sound on his tape machine was muffled. It was a cassette player from memory, a cassette deck. And he said that he'd been trying to clean the head with brass. And I said, I hope you mean brasso. No, he meant brass. He said there's a little black deposit in the middle of the head. I said, yes, I know, that's the moulding around the pole pieces that pick your sound up. Oh dear. Oh, is that... Oh dear. every cassette tape he played on it had a nice score right the way down the tape, all along its length. Nice. You just can't help some people, can you? You know, Jesus H. Christ. Anyway, this old Fidelity, it uses the SC12H cartridge, a stereo cartridge, of course, because it's a stereo set, as you see. These first appeared in transistorized stereograms round about the late 60s, I suppose, and then in many products like this, not just by Fidelity. And then music centres, of course, and the last use that I know of was in the SC12 range, was in the Amstrad Tower system. Later Amstrad Tower systems, they redesigned the cartridge slightly and called it an Amstrad cartridge or something, but I think electrically and mechanically it was an SC12M. The SC12M had a slightly lower output than the SC12H, hence the M and H. They'd done this before with others. There was a SX6M, I think, for medium output, and then SX6H for high output, or something like that. That was a much bigger, boxier looking cartridge. Tended to be found in the older decks with the heavier looking head there, you know. But this old thing, it only plays 33s and 45s, but you can see down there, there's a little hole in the arm mounting, and that's where on some models there'd be a lever sticking out so you could lift the tone arm more easily. But yeah, so another thing to bear in mind about all these BSR decks is if you're transporting it anywhere, I don't just mean taking it from room to room, but if you're transporting it anywhere, say you're chucking it in the back of the car and to take it somewhere else, or you're posting it for somebody, then for heaven's sakes make sure the suspension screws are screwed down, because you can see what this does. It's on springs, and the reason it's like it is that in the old days when they were put in stereograms, they didn't want feedback from the built-in speakers going up into the tone arm and making a horrible noise, so they put it on these springs. And it also helped absorb shocks when it dropped the records on the auto changer. But you see there's a screw here and then there's a screw there, and even my Amstrad Tower system has got this arrangement. It's exactly the same. The motor board weighs about a quarter what this does, by the way. But yeah, if you don't do that, the turntable will bounce around everywhere. It might damage valves in a valve set, because these were used in valve record players as well, and it might just damage itself, knock itself out of adjustment. And you can do without all that aggravation, can't you? So anyway, on that rather clearer note, because it was sounding a little bit fuzzy to my ears before, I thought something not quite right there. I remembered my mum's old Toshiba from 30 odd years ago. Anyway, see you soon.